Welcome to Taste Buds. I'm Debra Eckerling, goal strategist, writer, and foodie. And today I'm speaking with Arthur Smith, who's executive producer of hits like Hell's Kitchen and Kitchen Nightmares, and author of the new inspirational book, Reach. And the people who know me know that I love goals and food. And today we get to basically talk about both of them. So welcome, Arthur.
Thank you, Deborah. Can't wait to get into this with you.
So so these are bite-sized conversations about food, cooking, and community.
Yeah.
So where and like I said, you've done these. Basically, you said, "Here's Gordon Ramsay, America. Let's like get to know him." Like years and years ago. What is that connection? Why are people so obsessed with food and
You know,
cooking?
it's funny having been around food television and having been around people like Gordon for all these years. It's amazing what's happened to food over the last 20 years. We're in our 22nd season of Hell's Kitchen is going to air next year. And food was in a lot different place in America in 2004 when we produced the show. We have evolved as Americans in terms of what we eat, and we become a nation of foodies. But I don't think it was like this 20 years ago. And even so much as when Hell's Kitchen first went on the air, there had only been unsuccessful food shows on network television. So Hell's was the first successful television show on network television. Now, there had been shows on the Food Network and food channels, but not something that reached in such a broad way. And I think that there is a connection in some ways with not only Hell's Kitchen that's been on so long, but shows like Top Chef, which came along a year later. And America was changing, and shows like Hell's Kitchen, Top Chef, the Food Network, all those things combined kind of accelerated the change. To now we're at a point where we are foodies. I see it in my children who are in their 20s, and one's actually in her 30s. I can't believe how old I am. But anyhow, they're foodies. Like before we get a chance to eat, we got to take a picture of it and post it on Instagram. Before I go out for dinner, we got to analyze the menu. So I think we've changed, and I think a lot has happened in the last 20 years. And it's not just in big cities like New York and LA. It's in small towns where every possible ethnicity of type of food or fusion you can get in a small town.
So what was it that made Hell's Kitchen kind of like break the mold?
I think I must admit, I was not a foodie when I started producing Hell's Kitchen, and when I was approached to do the show by Fox, I wasn't exactly approached to do the show. I was shown a tape of Gordon Ramsay doing a show in the UK called Hell's Kitchen, and the network executive, this guy Mike Darnell, had sent it over to me, and I watched this tape, and I loved Gordon right away. I could see that he was a special personality, and I loved the title of the show. I did not like the show. The show was very different than the one that we ended up doing. It was Gordon basically teaching celebrities and yelling at them and disciplining them, of course, part of Gordon's charm. And that was it. And that was basically it. And so I called Mike Darnell, the Fox executive, back, and I said, love the show, love the title. Love the title, love Gordon, don't love the show. And he said, what are you thinking? And I said, I was thinking of something more aspirational. And I said, whatever we do, we have to make it broad. We have to tell, this has to reach people who aren't foodies, people like me at that time. So, and so I started to think about, how can we create this competition? How can we show these chefs in an admirable way, everything else like that. And that's how, basically Hell's developed. And I remember my early meetings with Gordon were kind of funny because he would say to me, like in his charming way, he says, absolutely nothing about food. There was a couple of swear words thrown in there. And I would say, well, I do know something about making television. And I said, I'm going to learn from you. And I sat down with him and I said, tell me all the great qualities that every chef needs to have. And then he would list them off, and he would say palate, leadership, creativity, et cetera, et cetera. And at that point, I said to him, I said, I promise you that in everything that we do, we will be purposeful. And every challenge and everything that we do on the show will harken back to one of those key qualities. Now, I will tell you, we're going to put some showmanship into it. We're going to build a restaurant. We're going to have two sides. We're going to have two teams. And I started going off. And by the end of it, I got a high five out of Gordon, and we were on our way. And we became, and we still are, very, very close friends. And it's been an amazing relationship. And along the way, I don't know if I classify myself as a foodie, but I am advanced. I've matured in my palate and the way I view food. And I certainly will tell you, I have this admiration for chefs. The other thing that I will point out, just to indicate, how food has changed in America, is that people who come out to try out for Hell's Kitchen now. The profession has changed. For many people, it was a profession of necessity, and now it's become a profession of choice. And it's very different in terms of like who we'd see at the beginning in the early years of Hell's Kitchen, who now auditions for Hell's Kitchen. And I think that's the evolution of food in America. And I think, that goes back to what I'm saying. Food is in a much different place than it was 20 years ago.
Would you have even imagined that like social media chef was like a career?
No.
Because social media wasn't like a thing yet.
It's like food is on this great track. There's tons of momentum, and I think it's a lot of things combined. I think it's our view of the world in terms of like how global we now think. I think it's social media has had a big part in it. I think of what's happening on television with these landmark shows. I think it's everything combined. And so, yeah, no, it's quite incredible. It's quite incredible how a TikTok chef can make an incredible living only cooking on TikTok.
Ridiculous. So do you cook or do you just eat?
I primarily eat, but
Right.
I have a lot of opinions on food. And
Such as?
I just learned things along the way. But no, I don't really cook that much. But it's funny because when we're shooting Hell's Kitchen, just being around Gordon and also doing Kitchen Nightmares. Kitchen Nightmares was, where we'd go to restaurants with Gordon and fix them up, and that was like an MBA. Every day was like an MBA case study in terms of like how you fix a business and why this business isn't working, and and why the menu wasn't working in that particular neighborhood. So I mean, like I said, I've learned a lot along the way about how things should be done and how things should be presented. And, of course, you can't be around Gordon Ramsay without picking up something. You can't be around Gordon Ramsay with knowing that, the Worcester sauce that I need to put in my burger may be the key to making the burger right. There's other things that need to go into it. You can't be around Gordon Ramsay knowing that when a chef is, making a beef Wellington, that he shouldn't slice it too early, because if he does, it'll be dried out by the time the customer gets it. Whatever those things are, you learn a lot along the way working with Gordon. You can't help but not. But yeah.
I'm thinking maybe you need to do a show where people who've produced nonfiction television, as we call it, in the food genre are competing on a food show.
Wow. Yeah, that would be kind of interesting. That would be kind of interesting. I'd be pretty scared and feel pretty vulnerable after all the years that I've spent, 500 hours of television that I've done with Gordon Ramsay. I think people are going to be expecting me to be a lot better than I am. It's funny. I often think that as I get older, and maybe someday I'll retire. Don't know if that's ever going to happen, but maybe someday. I really would like to spend more time in the kitchen. I really would like to apply, what I've learned over the years. I just haven't. And my wife's a good chef, so I'm happy to eat whatever she's serving. I'm lucky to eat whatever she's serving.
So so normally I would ask you for a recipe because
Mm-mm.
this is what we do, but perhaps your wife will be kind enough to share a recipe that we could put in the recap.
Sure.
Okay,
She
so
yes, she has. Yes,
okay, so what
she
is your
does have a couple
favorite?
specialties,
Let's
and I'd be happy to share with you some of the joy of those recipes that she's given me over the years. So
Okay.
absolutely.
Do you have a favorite?
No, I don't in particular. I can't think of anything that she has a sensational brisket that she does, actually. That's pretty awesome. That's probably
Brisket. Well,
that one stands.
sensational and brisket, those words don't come together all the time,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Yes.
So I'm angling for that sensational brisket recipe
It's
if she
coming.
shares.
It's coming. It's coming. I'm sure she'll give it up.
Excellent. So food TV though is not all you produce.
Yes.
You do lots of things. So I can you like encapsulate and probably not, but try. what what is it that you love about the different shows that you create, what you put out into the world?
You know, I am a child of television, and I love the medium, and I've always had this love affair with it, and I really like everything. I love the nonfiction space because that's what I read. That's what always got me excited. But my career has been, I bounced before starting my company 23 years ago. I had worked in sports. I was head of programming production at Fox Sports. I was head of CBC Sports. I was at Universal MCA as a senior vice president. I worked at Dick Clark doing variety shows and award shows. Dick Clark got me my green card 30 something years ago. And, so my company is a reflection of all the things that I love to do, which is, a lot of genres, they're all in the nonfiction space. So, everything, from Hell's Kitchen to American Ninja Warrior to the documentary series that we do, to Welcome to Plathville, our TLC series. But there's really in this genre, there's nothing that we haven't done. Music shows, relationship shows, game shows. I did a game show with Rob Lowe, Mental Samurai, a music series with Simon Cowell, which I did years ago. I just like good television. I like an opportunity to tell great stories. I like, really getting into the characters of who these people are and getting people vested. I feel that's what our job. You can almost watch people do anything if you care about them. And that's the way when Hell's was first starting, not being a foodie, I said, we have to show how admirable these chefs are and the pressure that they're under and their passion for what they do. And that's what we did. And so, which is really, even though they're completely different shows, when we talk about American Ninja Warrior, before everybody steps into the line, their story, why we should be rooting for them or not rooting for them. But you're vested. You care in the result of what's about to happen. And that's the thing that I think all our shows are about. They're stories told well, and where you're vested in characters, and those are essential in all our shows. I like the challenge of doing a wide variety of things, and I get excited about an idea. So it does. I like too many things, and that's the great thing about coming to my job every day. It's like one day I'm working with the NFL. I'm working with we do the Pro Bowl games with the National Football League, and the next day I'm working on a feature documentary called the longest journey, that we're in production on. So like I said, I like a wide variety of things. So it all interests me.
I think liking too many things is probably better than not liking anything. So you're like overcompensating for the universe of people. I don't know. And so your book, Reach,
Yeah.
it's your stories, right? But there's
Yes.
another purpose behind it, I would
Yes.
imagine,
Yes.
because it is called Reach.
Yes. I mean, yeah, it's a memoir, but I like to say it's a memoir with a purpose. I have, over my career, I have learned and applied what I call the power of reach, the power of extending yourself, that you only realize your full potential unless you reach beyond what you think you can do. When you reach, you find out the difference between a pipe dream and what you haven't dared to try just yet. And it tells the story of how I went from this shy, extremely shy young child into somebody who became someone who can't stop reaching and can't stop looking for new goals and stuff like that, and how that led me to a life that I wouldn't have dreamed of when I was that shy little boy. And there was something very significant that happened when I was young that turned my life around. I didn't know I didn't recognize the power of reach at that moment, but as I look back, I realized that it was that moment that set me on this path to become, the youngest head of CBC Sports when I was 28, and all the other things that I've accomplished in my life.
Is there something you know now that you wish you knew at the beginning of your career?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing, if I could talk to my younger self, there is a danger of being of being this person who constantly rages, and it's always really important um, to enjoy the present and to enjoy the present more. If you're constantly thinking about your next move, or you're constantly thinking about your next reach, you may forget to focus on what's right there in front of you. I'm a lot better at that than I was when I was younger. And so many times in my life, like when I was producing the Los Angeles Olympics, I was 24 years old. I was so shocked that I was in that position that I don't think I enjoyed it as much as I should. That's the one thing. If I could talk to my younger self, that's what I would say. It's like, hey, every moment, embrace every moment, enjoy every moment, live in the now, while you're looking at the future. You can do both. I just didn't do it quite as well when I was younger, but I'm doing it a lot better now.
It's like enjoying a meal.
Yes,
It's the prep for the meal. It's
yes,
enjoying that experience, the prep, and the food itself, and then talking about the food when you're done with it.
yes. It's funny. It's funny. When I was trying to like figure out what Hell's Kitchen was going to be in the United States, I went out for dinner with my wife to an Italian restaurant, and it happened to have an open kitchen. And I was going, how am I going to take this great chef, this great character, Gordon Ramsay, and develop that into something that I think American audiences would like. And I was sitting right beside the open kitchen, and my wife was talking to me, and it was one of those moments where I don't know what she was saying, because I was obsessed with what was going on in the kitchen. And I was like looking in the kitchen, and I was looking at the chefs, and I was looking at the timing, and the expediter yelling out the orders and the tickets coming in, and I said, wait a second, this is kind of like sports. I know sports. I came from sports. And so Hell's Kitchen, like when you break it down, there's a pregame where you're watching them get ready and all the things that go through and the nervousness and what station they're going to be on and executing Gordon's menu. Then there's the game, which is the dinner service. We do build a restaurant, and it's real customers who come into this restaurant. And then there's the post game, which is the aftermath, and Gordon breaking down what they did, and them sweating it out in the dorm, and worrying about who's going to go home. And I go, it's like sports. I know sports. And it's funny because the way we shoot Hell's Kitchen, and if sometime, Deborah, you got to come down to Hell's Kitchen. You got to come down the next time we're taping, because it's covered like a sporting event. When we have 80 cameras, 80 robotic cameras shooting the show, and the way when you walk into the Hell's Kitchen control room and you're in that dinner service, it's very akin to what it's like to be in the control room of a live sporting event. That dinner service is live. It's not. It's as real as it can be, and what happens there really really happens. So anyhow, that was my epiphany on Hell's Kitchen at the time.
Food is a sporting event for some people anyway.
True.
So it works, everything works together beautifully. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat about all things food, reaching, and sports. Where can people learn more about you, learn about your book, etc.?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. This has been fun. Brings back some good memories on Hell's Kitchen and the start of it all. And Gordon looking at me like I had two heads at time. But yeah, it's resulted in this great friendship. So yeah, the Reach is available for pre-order now. It comes out officially on June 6th. It's available at all the usual places that you can think of: Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target, Walmart, et cetera, et cetera. So you can pre-order it now, and then it'll be in bookstores, and you can still order it on all those places I mentioned after that. Really excited about it, and all the proceeds from the book Reach are going to the Reach Foundation, which I set up. So yeah, and the Reach Foundation is, like I said, has been set up by me to give funds to charities that lift people up in some way. So yeah, out June 6th. Thank you, Deborah. It's been fun.
Thank you so much. And thanks to all of you for tuning into Taste Buds with Deb. Don't miss an episode. You can subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform, and go to jewishjournal.com to get recipes, brisket for this one, and read the articles that go with each episode. And you can learn more at tastebudswithdeb.com. Until next time, enjoy your food.